All right. So, all right, everyone, we're on to the next session. So Rob gave us a good preview of like, what does it mean to be in the cybersecurity profession? What are some of the professions that we can do? Well, our next session is a panel, and we have a great group of industry professionals here. I'm going to facilitate the panel. And so we're going to give you like, what does it look like a real day in the life? Is it all exciting? Are we like wearing the black hoodies and we're staring at the screen and we're eating munchies all day? Are we looking at code? Or, are we actually like we're real people? We do exciting stuff. We have boring parts of our job, and we have exciting parts of our job, and we actually have a wide range of skill sets we do. So that's what we're going to do today. Hey, we heard a fun fact about Rob, and I forgot to share my fun fact, although I'm not as interesting as Rob. But my fun fact, well, I guess one would be I got my start in cybersecurity in November 1988 in the Morris Worm, the first large-scale computer security incident that put security on the map. And it's about, we didn't know what this, when Rob talked about passion and you're taking on a problem, you're like, hey, I've never seen this before. That was an attack that the internet, by the way, only had about 2,500 computers at the time. We didn't know what was happening. We had to figure out on the spot, how do we resolve this? And that like sparked my interest. I'm like, this is super cool. This is something that I want to do in my career. There were no tools. There were no firewalls, right? Everything was just flapping on the internet. And when Rob says it's exciting and there's new stuff to learn and you're passionate, that's because 30 years later, actually 33 years later, there's still interesting stuff to do in cybersecurity, and it changes every day. There's something new. So we're going to hear from our panelists. We're going to start, each of the panelists is going to introduce themselves, and we'll just go in the order that's on the slide here. They're going to talk about 2 to 3 minute overview of what their current role is. And they will share a fun fact about themselves, because we're all about fun facts about the speakers. And then we're going to have a Q&A session. We have some questions already prepared, but yeah, we'd like to hear from the audience as well. So Raj, take it away. Get us started here.
Well, hello.
Okay, well, Raj is working out his audio. Let's go to Ellie. Ellie, you want to start us off with the intro?
Sure, I can start us off. Are you able to hear me okay? Perfect. Okay.
You're on mute, Ellie.
Oh, okay. We're good then. My name is Ellie. So I actually started my
we don't
career.
hear Ellie either.
Oh.
No, I can hear her.
You can hear her.
Might be you, Michelle.
All right, John, how about you? Let's start with you, John. Sorry, we're having a few audio issues here.
No, we can hear Ellie. Can you hear me, Michelle?
We might just have to ping Michelle.
Yeah, let's.
We can. Raj is here, so maybe we can go back to the normal order.
Okay,
and,
all right.
we'll
Now,
ping Michelle.
all right, Raj, let's get started.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Hi everyone, so I'm Raj. I work in Cisco. I'm part of a CTO team, and since I joined, I just finished my master's and was a fresh grad out of school and joined the CTO team, and I was involved in porting a small footprint firewall into multiple platforms, and now I'm working on encrypted traffic related stuff. So fun fact about me is I recently started growing plants, and I have 5 plants now.
Nice starting there in a green thumb, Raj. All right, Ellie, let's go to you.
Okay, hey everyone, I'm Ellie Daw. I currently work as a product manager at a company called Shift5, which is a startup here in Washington, D.C. So you can see my fake background is the ballpark, which I live close by, and that was nice cherry blossom season there. I started my career actually as a software engineer at Cisco, so that's how I know Michelle, but I worked in the applied cryptography group. So cryptography is kind of how we like jumble data to make sure that like adversaries can't understand it. So I worked on writing and maintaining the software that all the Cisco products used to encrypt things. While I was there, I got involved in some cryptography research work. So we were looking at some quantum resistant algorithms, things that will be safe in kind of the quantum world. I moved on to doing a more research focused role at a consulting firm. And there I got to work with more like quantum technologies and kind of got to be the cryptography knowledge-based person at that company, which was really fun. I moved on to another freelance role and now I'm in product. So I've been jumping around a little bit, but I'm still involved in research as well. So kind of day to day, what I do as a product manager for a cybersecurity product is really understand the needs of the users. I kind of keep up with news on new attacks, think about how we can detect them, think about like, okay, the user wants this thing to solve their security problem, but we also need to be thinking about like the security of our product and installing our product into a customer's environment. So there's kind of a lot of security aspects to being a product manager. But yeah, my fun fact is I grew up doing gymnastics. So I used to coach. I've kind of retired from that in the last couple of years, but I'm still a certified judge. So that's my fun fact.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellie. Porna?
Hi everyone. Good morning. I am from the Cisco CX Cloud team. I started my career as a software engineer, and I was working mostly on Oracle and Salesforce, more as a more as a backend engineer in Salesforce and Oracle world, right? Like more into SQL and PL SQL kind of thing. But along the way, I picked up security, I would say, and most of my security work was involved with security groups and how do you do the identity and access management, things like that. But right now in Cisco, I do the security architect kind of role where we try to look at every new application that's getting created and see the architecture and see if they are really secure and give them recommendations to make it 100% secure. So that is what my role entails. And fun fact, I think this is kind of my first meeting where I don't have my daughter around. Otherwise, ever since the pandemic started, I've been always attending meetings with my 3-year-old. So.
All right. Thank you, Porna. Hey, John, let's hear about you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is John Brian Canella, and my purpose is to inspire people to see the light that they have within themselves and to empower them to realize their fullest potential. I graduated from the New Jersey Institute of Technology with a degree in IT network security and a minor in business. Shortly after graduation, I started a career working at Cisco Systems in Silicon Valley, and I worked within their computer security incident response team. So I monitored Cisco's corporate network for any malicious activity that could go on there. After 2.5 years working at Cisco, I decided to change jobs and I moved to a cybersecurity company called FireEye. And at FireEye, I worked within their security operations center, and we did digital forensics for over 300 customers. So analyzing network data, endpoint data, and email. So we would put pieces of the puzzle together whenever there was an incident, and we would write a compromised report that gets published to the customer so that they can understand what actually went down during that time of a breach. We would also create detections and so that we can detect any new malicious activity that could be happening on a network or on an endpoint. After about 2.5 years working in the Security Operations Center, I then applied to be an incident response consultant at Mandiant, and that's where I am right now. So whenever there's a large-scale breach that occurs, these companies, they look for cybersecurity experts to deploy their technology and collect data on the endpoint and on the network side to figure out what actually happened. So they'll call us, and then we respond and figure out what happened on on their network. So that is what I'm doing right now. Fun fact about me, I love to rollerblade. I did a marathon in Paris, 26 miles on rollerblades. And my family's from the Dominican Republic. So that's a little bit about me.
Hey, John, thanks. Wow, I didn't know you did a marathon. That's pretty cool. And we're seeing lots of comments in the stream about your gamer chair, like you go, John. That's fine. Hey, I met John when he was an intern. So we're having a panelist about interns tomorrow. I also met Raj when he was an intern. And great group of folks here. Hey, PJ, whom I just met last week, but she is super awesome, cool. Take it away, PJ. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Michelle. Hello, everyone. My name is Prajakta. I mostly go by PJ for simplicity. I'm currently the director of offensive security at Palo Alto Networks company. If you don't know what company that is, it basically makes a lot of firewalls and offers cloud services, cloud security services. I am a career security person, so it was great to hear. I think a lot of the panelists talk about starting as software engineers and then just organically moving into cybersecurity. For me, I accidentally stumbled across cybersecurity when I was just finishing my bachelor's, and it just clicked. I knew I wanted to do it, so I came and started my master's out here. That was a long time ago. There weren't as many universities offering cybersecurity programs, unlike today. But I started my career as a web application security researcher. Did spend a long time doing that, and I kind of started getting frustrated that even though we were helping developers identify these vulnerabilities and showing them how to fix them, they were not getting fixed. And so to understand the root cause, I decided to shift into more product security, security architecture role. So doing threat modeling to understand what are the inherent causes of these issues that we eventually see when we're either pen testing the applications. I did that for a couple of years, and then now back into kind of doing offensive security. There's a couple of portions to it. One is the red team. So that team really focuses on emulating adversarial behavior, basically attacking us, our own company, to see where the gaps are. And then the second part to that is product pen testing, where making sure that anything we release to our customers is tested for security vulnerabilities.
Awesome.
Oh,
Thank
fun
you,
fact.
PJ.
Oh, I have a
fun fact.
Yeah. Nothing as cool as John, but I do have a certificate from Heineken for beer pouring.
Wow.
Which
no, that's
might seem
impressive.
which might seem very impressive, but all it takes is you go to the museum, you pour a beer, and they might give you a certificate for beer pouring. So it doesn't take a lot.
All right, well, that's cool. That's something cool to have. Well, I hope our audience can see that there's a lot of different things that you could do in cybersecurity. We all don't have the same start, right? In terms of some of us just incidentally, we find it, others we did it intentionally, and we've moved about. And so awesome here. So let's go to, we are gonna take actually I'll look now. No, so we're gonna take some questions. We have some baked in questions while our audience responds. So let's go to the first question. And so what's the most interesting aspect of your current role? Hey, Ellie, let's start with you.
Sure, yeah. So I've bounced around a little bit, but I will say that one of the unique things about being on the product side is that a lot of sort of selling a cybersecurity product to a customer is education, right? So just kind of framing all of these security issues in a way that makes sense to the people that have to go like get budget to purchase a product, right? Or convince others that it should be important to secure their systems, even though like, yes, we know that cybersecurity doesn't necessarily like make our company money, but it's still really important to be secure so that we can kind of keep our customers safe and all these other things. So that's one of my favorite things, is just kind of getting to talk to customers and educate them on the goals that we are doing and kind of why protecting systems a certain way is really important.
Awesome, thank you. Purna, how about you? What's fun in your current role?
So in my case, I just moved to my new team, and what I realized is that this team has been working for last 2-3 years. We've been doing releases, but it's not 100% secure. So there is a point where we have to go back and find out what they have already done and try to see what we can do to make it secure and make it faster. And also the part where talking to people and making them realize this is also important along with their business goals. So that is the part that's really interesting for me.
Awesome, thank you. Hey, Raj, what about you? What's really exciting about what you're doing right now in the SBG team?
So the first project I worked on, I had to port it to various platforms. So I had to interact with a lot of other teams to get that work done. I didn't know all the parts of them, but I was responsible for it. So I had to reach out to all the people, make sense of each thread, and then deliver the product. And right now I'm doing something similar, how to deal with the encrypted traffic over the on-prem devices and also cloud. So in that also I take information from other people, have discussions with them, and I've tried to come up with solution. So that interests me.
All right, thank you, Raj. Hey, my next question is actually a question that they're asking on the line as well in the Q&A session. So let's a couple of us talk about what we felt were the most beneficial classes we took in college that prepared us for our roles. John, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, great question. So when I was in college, actually even before college, in high school, I was taking a Cisco Network Academy class. And I feel like that class opened my eyes to what was possible with networking and how computers talk to each other. And that's what got me interested to even applying to college and pursuing a degree in information technology and having that concentration be network security. So if there's any Cisco classes that you could take or any networking classes that help you understand how computers and IoT devices can talk to one another, I think that's one. There's also, there's the networking classes. I'd take like Linux administration, system administration. I think those classes are really great too, because learning how to do bash scripts, those help, and being able to analyze Linux systems. If you take a Linux administration class, that'll help you when analyzing those types of systems. I'd say those two, and of course, taking a Python class. Python is one of the fastest growing programming languages nowadays, especially in cyber. So I would take a Python class today too.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else want to pipe in? It's what is the last thing you're learning that you needed to learn because the technology changed or you switched roles? Anyone would like to comment on that?
I will say, I think one of the things that benefited me the most, my career journey has been a little bit kind of curvy, but just taking a variety of classes, right? I got some of the sort of English lit classes, which might not be as relevant, but I did databases and realized okay, I don't love this, but good to know, right? I know how these are set up. I did Linux sysadmin, like John said, which I really enjoyed. I did the crypto classes, which were more on the math side. And I have a CS degree, as you know, all of these classes are kind of in the CS realm, but it's sort of covered the whole span of CS, which helped me to sort of narrow down what types of roles I would like and what technologies I wanted to work with.
Yeah, and I think I'll probably just chime in one thing about that. So nothing specific about courses, but I think one thing it's pretty obvious with cybersecurity is we use somebody else's ideas to solve our problems, right? So we're using AI to solve a lot of the cybersecurity detection issues. You don't necessarily need to, obviously understanding the foundations of security is important, but what I found is just learning about things outside of this domain has helped me come up with solutions or think of solutions for the problems that I was facing within the cybersecurity domain. So yeah, just keep your mind open. If you find something that looks interesting to you, just go learn about it. You never know when it will come in handy.
Actually, that's excellent advice, PJ, because like when I got started, I was I was a Unix system administrator, and actually I started as a software engineer way back in the 80s, and a Unix system administrator. And so and all of that I didn't really learn in college. I learned on my own. And then when something just looked exciting, then I was taking a class on whatever I needed to learn, or just reading. Like, I didn't take any classes around all of IoT, but I did a lot of research on my own, and I actually developed things that were useful for the industry. So it's like she said, you see something that looks exciting, just dive into it. That is a characteristic about cybersecurity professionals. We see something, it's like Rob said about the text messaging and forensics. Well, gee, I wonder how they're doing forensics on text messaging. Or maybe you're sitting here and you heard PJ talk about red team, blue team, and you never heard of those terms before. Well, you know what I do when I'm on meetings, I'm talking to my friend Google. Well, actually, what is red team, blue teaming? And actually, super cool. You should go out and look up PJ and look for her YouTube video where they did live at a conference on red team, blue team demonstration, and it was really super cool. So it's just that curiosity, just like, what is it? I'm going to go find out about it. And either, like Ellie said, like, databases, boring, or cryptography, interesting, and just kind of dig into that area. That's what it's about. So actually, on the topic of boring, because like, we wish our jobs were like super exciting, and I'm sure John wasn't bored at all this past week with all the ransomware attacks and all the different customers and some other folks. But you know what? The reality is, there's some pretty boring aspects of our job. And we just want to be real, so we're going to share a few of those. So PJ, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, certainly. I think you ask any pen tester or red teamer, the common answer you're gonna get is reporting. So you do all the cool stuff, you break into things, and you've gotten to your objective, and then comes the time to write it all down so that people know what you did and how to fix it, right? And that definitely is by far the most boring thing to do, creating presentations, creating reports. Absolutely.
Yeah, we always do the documentation.
Totally, it's exactly the equivalent of documenting your code, absolutely, or any kind of technical documentation. But goes to say that yeah, technical writing, technical communication, these are things that are a must, because cybersecurity is really genuinely about communication and making sure that people understand what you're trying to tell them. But yeah, those I would say would rank top for me as boring topics.
Boring, yeah.
Yeah, I could say something similar to that. Reporting and the time, sometimes like creating a master timeline of everything that happened on every system when you're doing the digital forensics part, and compiling it all together and making it look nice and neat. There's gathering all the data of what happened on each system, and then there's making it presentable. So that could be a boring part of the job, making it look nice and neat so that anybody could read and understand what actually went down. But it's a very important aspect of the job. I'm looking at the chat here, and I think Jesse mentioned a couple of times it's not boring. So it sounds like that's a great job for you to take up.
I was gonna say, maybe you should be a product. Maybe the people who enjoy that should be on the product side, because a lot of my role is like, yeah, framing things so that customers will understand.
Yeah. And a good point here about professionals. Like, we wish it was all super cool. Even if you have the most interesting, the most exciting, you're the defer expert like Rob Lee. There are some actually ones that we don't like to do every day, and you still have to be part of those to be part of a professional. It's all that overall polish. It's what makes us exceptional cybersecurity professionals, is that we're willing. We may not be willing, but we know we do our due diligence and spending time on the not so sexy stuff, so we can actually be exceptional and communicate about all the sexy stuff. That's just it. So, all right. So let's see now. And so a lot of us talked, we've been in the cyber security profession various years in a couple different roles. What is some of the, I'm going to spin the question because I know all of us can answer this. When you're thinking about, like, so you switched around a couple times, or at least once or twice, what what was sort of like, what was your thought process and reasoning? Because we have some people that are here on the call on this event thinking like, well, I don't know really where I really want to start. And what happens if I don't like that? How do I get into the, like, what's the like, is it, and even someone asked like, is cybersecurity going to be a thing in the next 5 years? Like, oh yes, you can guarantee that cybersecurity will be a profession till the end of times, whenever that is. It's definitely going to be a profession. There's going to be, we need more. There's a worldwide shortage of, I think, 4 million cybersecurity professionals today. We're trying to close that gap. So let's see, who do we want to go here? Let's start with Ellie. You've been in a couple of different roles. What is sort of your thought process? Like at heart, you're a crypto researcher person and you've moved around. What's that process? And are you trying to find your niche? Or you just, you're excited about the different things?
Yeah, I love this question. I think there are some people, and maybe some of you out there, that like, where you want to be in 5, 10, 20 years, and you kind of have the steps to get there. And that's so awesome that you can map that out. I was never one of those people. And I think that I spent a lot of my early career like feeling bad about it and feeling like, well, I don't know where I fit. Like, I don't know what my purpose is yet. And just like, I don't know, being frustrated that I didn't have that like 20-year plan, but I think I've come to realize that like every career step I'm taking is like refining to get more of the things I enjoy. And that's a totally valid path too. I don't have to know where I'm going to be in 5 or 10 years. I just like know that once I've stopped learning in my current role and something else looks really interesting, then I'm, maybe I can try that out and see how that goes. So I can maybe give a quick brief overview of like what my life looked like in some of these different roles. So as a software engineer on the crypto team, we kind of had to know what CVEs were coming out. We had to know the crypto requirements of different like governments or end customers, like the medical industry has some too. And then make sure that those were kind of written into our code and really well tested. As a researcher at the consulting firm, I worked with a lot of partners. And so I actually worked with them to kind of think about like, where is technology going in the next 5 years? What security problems might be coming then? What, like, can we put on our adversary hat and think about like the environment and kind of model it and attack it, right? And then think about ways to defend that, building proof of concepts, things like that. I'm still involved in the research community. That's a lot of like, I read a lot of papers. I think a lot about like, okay, this paper wrote about this. What about this other question? And then, you can talk back and forth with the researchers and kind of brainstorm a little bit. And then now my product role, which I told you a little bit about. So there are like different aspects of each career move, but every time it was like, going from software to research, I still kind of had some of the software, but I was pulling in more of the like forward looking. And then going from research to consulting, it was always the forward looking, and I was pulling in a little bit more like client facing. And now at product, like I sort of have all of those things, but I'm also thinking about like security as a model and what requirements we want, like how to educate people, how to sort of prioritize, like, I don't know, it's kind of a refining process for me. But I think the important thing is like, it's really, really awesome to have, 5, 10, 20-year plan, but you don't have to. You can just kind of refine as you go.
Good point, Ellie. I mean, I certainly, like when I started in 1988, like I never knew I was going to be in the same field 33 years later. And I've done a whole host of roles during that time. It's when there's an opportunity to move around. But you know what? We're getting some really great questions from the Q&A panel. So, hey, we're going to defer from our bait questions because you guys are all professionals. You can answer these. So here's we'll start with this one. Is there anything you wish you knew or had done before stepping into your career field? How about PJ?
Did I wish I knew? Honestly, I don't think so. I think for me, the fun part is just the learning aspect of going through a career like this. So I don't think I really feel ever that maybe if I knew this, my course would have been a completely different one, an awesome one, or anything like that. But I think definitely for those of you who are thinking about this as a career or just starting their journey in this career, just know that you can't stop learning. I mean, it's never going to be a static field for sure. Technology field in general is never going to be a static field. So there's always going to be something you're going to be learning that you didn't know before. But yeah, for me, this is not a great answer, but I haven't ever had that feeling where I felt like wish I'd known this going into it.
But Peter, it's an excellent point, right? Because I have met people where they're like, man, I didn't know I was going to have to keep learning. There are people who don't actually want to have to keep refreshing their skills at the pace that cybersecurity professionals need to face. So it's an excellent answer to the question. There are other of us, like when you've been in the industry a while, like that's like exciting. Like what's the next most interesting thing that I can learn on there? So that may be a point. So what about this? We all have to, on the whole learning aspect, right? We all have to keep up to date. And so let's share about what are some of the news source. How are you all doing that? Like, what is your favorite e-zine or YouTube channel or training? How are we all staying up to date? John, let's start with you.
Yeah, so for me, I like Hacker News is a big one that I like to read up on. The FireEye blogs, FireEye, Cisco, they're also always posting blogs about latest threats. Twitter, I actually use Twitter a lot for staying up on like what's actually happening right now. You can follow a lot of cybersecurity professionals and follow a list of people who all post about what's happening. Also attending conferences like DEF CON or Black Hat or B-Sides. There's a whole bunch of cybersecurity conferences that you can attend. I'd say B-Sides, like if I was in high school right now, I would probably try to see if there was a B-Sides close to me because they're not that expensive to attend. DEF CON and Black Hat, you have to travel to Las Vegas and all that. But there's usually some local cybersecurity conferences that you can attend. In short, that's what I would look at first.
All right. Anyone else? Anything different? Another favorite source that you like?
No, John captured it well. Oh, go ahead, Raj.
I will
Sorry,
say-
I was just.
Oh, go ahead, Raj.
Raj.
Sorry. No, I look at Reddit or some mailing groups for some info as well, and some like chats, Discord or like company-wide chats.
Yeah, that's related to what I was going to say too. Especially on the crypto side, like mailing lists are really big. People like email threads in that world. And then looking at conferences, like the big crypto conference is just called crypto, but you can look at the papers that they have. And in the recent years, there have been videos to go along with it, which makes it a little bit more accessible, in my opinion, than kind of reading papers. But if you're interested in like the theory and the sort of research side, then looking up those popular conferences and the presentations that were there is a really good way as well.
Thank you, Ellie. PJ, you had something you were going to add in?
Oh, no, not at all. I was going to say that I think the other panelists have captured it really well.
All right, cool. All right, so here's another one. And I'll start first, so I'll give you all a chance to be thinking about what your answer is. So the question is, what are some barriers that you faced as you jumped into cybersecurity careers on air? So, I mean, on my part, I don't know if it was a barrier, but it was a challenge. Since it was the early days, right? It's a lot different than today. I was literally the only woman in the room for many, many years. And so from a gender diversity perspective, we'll just talk about full scale diversity, whether it's male, female, or any of the genders or nationality or age or language, whatever it is. But for me, I know early on I didn't think about it so much. And then other people were talking about it. Then I'm like, well, you know what? I am the only woman in this room. Or I'd go to a conference and I would be speaking at a conference and I could literally look in a room of 1,000 people and see like, man, there's only just like a handful of women here. And so it just that people developed a stereotype that, well, maybe cybersecurity isn't a career for women, and when in fact women excel at careers in cybersecurity. So it's an excellent opportunity. for full spectrum diversity to get in this. And that has been my continual passion over the years, is to try to get more women to go into this particular field. Would someone else like to talk about what they might have seen as barriers?
I can go. So when I came into cybersecurity, I was already almost 10 years experienced in the database area. So that was a bit of a problem, because the jobs I'm applying to, I'm not having the experience for cybersecurity, but at the same time, my experience comes from something else. And I didn't want to apply for jobs which are which are for less experienced people. So that was initial problem for me. And how I overcame that was to take some stretch assignments on cybersecurity. So that way I could augment my current experience with something along on the security lines. And when I landed in my next job, it was easier.
Okay, thank you. So we have time for like maybe 2 more questions. There's some really good ones here, so I'm trying to look at them. But I think this is a good one, because I've heard it from different people, especially in today's world where, like, we have a bunch of very talented high school students that totally excelled at the CyberStart Foundations game. They're going through the Foundations Academy right now. They have 4 months to do that. There's all kinds of training, like the concept of the online universities, like the Coursera and all that. Like there's a wealth of information that's free, that we can take, or very low cost, or even some high cost. And so the question here is, do you feel that that there's an additional benefit of going to college instead of going straight into the industry through certifications or internships? So I'll speak from my perspective, because I've hired people, and then I'd like to hear from maybe 2 others. I think this is a really key question to answer. And I will say that it's still pretty much, there's a lot of organization, especially large organizations, that are going to have a minimum requirement of a degree to get into like when they're looking at candidates in general, not just for cybersecurity, but they look at a degree as a part of a professional level to achieve. Now, and when it talks about certifications, right, there's a lot of talk that, and I guess the question has come up because there were some statements that made that companies just don't look at certifications, or they don't hire somebody with a cybersecurity degree, because what they really want to ensure is that the people that they're getting have a very strong foundation. We talked about a strong foundation in Rob's talk. We talked about a strong foundation and some of our experience here. So I think there is a trend that's happening where it's not so much about the degree, but it's really about, and it's not so much about the certifications initially, because there are some certifications that don't hold as much value of others. I'll just sort of leave it there. But it's really about, what do you know from a foundational knowledge that you can do? And so who else would like to jump in on that in terms of your thought? PJ?
Yeah, I can definitely answer this one. Excellent question. And I think it depends on the role or on the subfield that you're considering, right? So if you really want to be a crypto expert, for instance, that's a tough one to really learn on the job, versus something like pen testing or red teaming. It's better learned on the job. So you could do all the courses at college and read all the books, but if you haven't done hands-on keyboard type stuff, it can be a challenging job to apply for. So it depends on, first of all, your personality. Do you genuinely, does it help for you to have traditional support that you get from colleges, college programs? Are you more of a self-learner that likes to just do things, get your hands dirty? Then certifications, that kind of stuff would benefit. I do a lot of hiring. I do not look at either certifications, college degrees, anything. As Michelle was saying, it's what you know, that and what the certain skills like creativity and sort of the analytical mindset that we are looking for, which are not really necessarily tied to how you got to that interview table. But yeah, there are going to be some companies that do require that, but a lot of companies are changing their attitude towards the base requirements about college degrees or certifications, etc.
Awesome.